Secretary, we are ready to begin.
Good morning and welcome to the November 2025 open meeting of the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. FERC's mission is to assist consumers in obtaining reliable, safe, secure, and economically efficient energy services at a reasonable cost through appropriate regulatory and market means and collaborative efforts. The purpose of the open meeting is for the Commission to consider the matters that have been duly posted in accordance with the Government and the Sunshine Act. Members of the public are invited to observe, which includes attending, listening, and taking notes, but does not include participating in the meeting or addressing the Commission. Actions that purposely interfere or attempt to interfere with the commencement or conducting of the meeting or inhibit the audience's ability to observe or listen to the meeting are not permitted. This includes attempts by audience members to address the Commission while the meeting is in progress. Any persons engaged in such behavior will be asked to leave the building. Anyone who refuses to leave voluntarily will be escorted from the building. Additionally, documents presented to the chairman, commissioners, or staff during the meeting will not become part of the official record of any Commission proceeding, nor will they require further Commission action. If you wish to comment on an ongoing proceeding before the Commission, please visit our website for more information. Also, representatives from FERC's Office of Public Participation are located just outside the Commission meeting room to answer questions and assist the public with submission inquiries. Thank you for your cooperation. Good morning, Madam Chairman. Good morning, Commissioners. This is a time and place that has been noticed for the open meeting of the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission to consider the matters that have been duly posted by the Commission. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Commissioners, since the October 16, 2025 open meeting, the Commission has issued 86 notational orders. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. And good morning, everyone. I am so happy to be here. It is the honor of my lifetime that President Trump has trusted me to lead FERC based on my judgment and experience. And it feels like I'm returning home. This is my third time at FERC, and I'm absolutely thrilled. A few preliminary items. Thank you, Commissioner Rosner and your team for your excellent work running the agency these past months, and Commissioner Hsiung and Chang for your support in doing so. Also, a huge thank you to FERC staff for your tireless efforts every day on behalf of all Americans. As a former FERC staffer, I know firsthand how important your work is, and I am eternally grateful that you are still here and that you will join us on this mission. And a warm welcome to my compatriot and Senate confirmation, Commissioner LaCerte. I'm delighted that you make us a full commission of 5 again, and I really look forward to working with you and your team to advance FERC's mission. Finally, I'd like to welcome our colleagues from NARUC and Europe who are in the audience today for a very important meeting. Thank you all for being here. A few words before we dive into my first commission meeting as chairman regarding my priorities. We are at a critical juncture in our nation's history, a time to cement the United States' energy dominance. It is crucial to our economic and national security that we win the artificial intelligence data race for our country so that American data does not go abroad. In addition to our core mission of keeping the lights on for all Americans at reasonable costs, my priority as chairman is to ensure that our country can connect and power data centers as quickly and as durably as possible. I also will prioritize streamlining regulations to ensure that our processes at FERC are efficient to encourage maintenance and construction of more infrastructure. We desperately need it in our country. We are looking into cutting regulatory red tape and increasing transparency in our permitting processes, as well as other FERC processes to incentivize investment. Overall, I'm committed to leading the Commission through this historic growth period and working with my fellow commissioners and staff to ensure energy security and prosperity for all of Americans. Moving on to my staff, I'd like to introduce my team who will help steer our ambitious agenda. I have selected McKenna Skeeters to serve as FERC's Chief of Staff. James Dawson is our General Counsel. I am very grateful also to David Mornoff for stepping up as acting GC these past months and continuing to serve our country as Deputy General Counsel. I am very proud to share that Mindy Sauter is my Chief Counsel and Strategic Advisor, and additionally, Kevin Blake, Cece Coffey, Noah Lichtenstein, and Andrea Spring have all come up from FERC staff to advise me. I see you're all reluctantly on camera this first meeting. We'll see if that continues. Finally, Kathleen Bernard and Charmy Cabral round out my front office, and I'm very grateful that these incredible people have agreed to join me on my mission to serve our country. Now, let's move on to highlight some of the very important items we have before us today. I think I can speak for my fellow commissioners that we are incredibly proud of our first agenda together as 5. This morning, although it's not on the agenda, this is late breaking news. My fellow commissioners and I voted out the 2025 Oil Pipeline Index NOPR. We recognize that this item suffered from unprecedented delay, and we want to give stakeholders relief as soon as possible. Moving to the actual agenda for today, 2 of our orders will finally untangle the 2020 Oil Pipeline Rate Index. Item G1 withdraws the October 24 supplemental NOPR that proposed to amend the index for the remainder of the 5-year period covered by the 2020 index. This action clarifies rates at this late stage of the 5-year review period. In G2, we're acting on rehearing requests for the September 2024 order, reinstating the 2020 index level and approving limited relief for pipelines affected by the overturned order. If anyone else understood that, my kudos to you. Let's hope that I did. Second, we're taking 2 big steps today to encourage infrastructure so that reliable, safe, and affordable American energy can be delivered to consumers here and throughout the world. Thanks in large part to my colleagues for taking the initiative before I got here, we're voting to seek comments on potential procedures for blanket authorizations related to both LNG facilities and hydroelectric projects. We're finding ways to simplify and optimize permitting to instill confidence in the promise of building for our future. I'm looking forward to seeing what is filed on those dockets. Finally, we are terminating several dockets that have hung open for many years. The longest one, 7.5 years it's been open. Not only do these dockets fail to garner meaningful support from stakeholders, they have shrouded the industry with ambiguity that we are stopping today. Items M1, M2, G3, and G4. We're continuing to look at actions that we can take to clean house. Now, you all are probably sick of hearing me talk, so I'll open the floor to my colleagues by seniority. I'll start with Commissioner Rosner.
Well, good morning, and Chairman, thank you very much for the kind words, and really congratulations to you. I really look forward to working with your leadership and with all the colleagues. Commissioner LaCerte, it's been wonderful getting to know you over these past few months, and I'm just really excited to be back at 5. We had some more elaborate talking points, but somebody abbreviated them to say "Yay 5." So we're going to go with it. I want to just also acknowledge our NARUC and European Union colleagues. Congratulations, President Rendell, to be elevated. I look forward to meeting with you later today. And also we've got Chair Hudson and Commissioner Seibin also from the here today, I believe, and so wonderful to see them elevated and working together as a team in NARUC leadership. Also, just want to thank Tricia Pridemore for her service to NARUC. It's been wonderful working with her too, and look forward to continuing. Back here at home, I have a quick update on my team. Richard Layfelt is hiding over there, but he's joined on a detail. He's new to my team, but pretty much everyone who does energy policy related to FERC, and DC probably knows Richard. So Richard, excited to have you on board. I'm really excited about the full agenda, 17 items. Looks all unanimous. Thank you, staff, for getting that together and organizing us. Wonderful. I'm excited about all the infrastructure we're moving forward here, and all of the above strategy that the Commission's taking on the agenda just today. And so H1, hydropower, faster permitting, C1, kicking off same type of program for LNG. These blanket programs, we have had a 20-year experience with them at FERC. They've worked really well. And these two other energy sources, LNG, we've got 20 years of experience, lots of information on how to characterize the environmental impacts of those projects. I'm excited to move that forward to do things faster. Hydropower, we're seeing a surge in non-capacity amendment requests. And so I think that warrants taking a look at how we can move that source faster, especially given all the demand we're dealing with. And, I think it goes without saying that, all of us are interested in looking to do things faster, but also maintaining a rigorous safety and environmental review of those projects. So please look forward to your comments and getting a full record and doing that work with you. Also just want to mention another item, C3, which is authorizing some compression equipment to capture methane leaks at the Everett terminal. It's really great to see voluntary innovations like this that do more, get more energy into the system cleaner than before. Chairman mentioned a few of the dormant proceedings that we're closing out. I had a couple comments on those. M1 is the duty of candor notice of proposed rulemaking. And I'd just like to highlight that while we're closing this out, I think it's worth reiterating what the order makes very clear, which is we have numerous existing regulations that prohibit untruthful, inaccurate, or incomplete communications to FERC, and we'll continue to take that hard look and enforce those regulations. And so closing this one out doesn't preclude us from doing that and making sure that what we have in our records are truthful, accurate, and complete. G3 is a petition to establish new oil pipeline standards of conduct. And, here, while we're declining to pursue new regulations, I think the order really explains what the ICA already does, which is it prohibits oil pipelines from conferring undue preference upon their marketing affiliates, and that shippers have multiple methods to invoke those protections. Next one is the waiver policy statement. And here, while we're not adopting changes to that waiver policy, I just want to highlight that this order encourages regulated entities to do smart things with your tariffs and file them at the Commission. And so what I hope to see is our tariff revisions that allow people to cure good faith errors. We've talked about waivers that any reasonable person on the street would say, why can't you do this? And we can't because of the filed rate doctrine. And the other one is to provide notice to let the Commission grant waivers. So I think both of these things, if regulated entities can work with their stakeholders to propose changes to us to allow us to get more common sense outcomes, that would be great. And I look doors open if people want to talk about those solutions. Almost to the end here. I'm excited again to beat the drum on faster generator interconnection. E3, E4, and E5 approve Order 2023 generator interconnection streamlining for all three jurisdictional distribution tariffs in California. Thank you, Commissioner Chang, for all your work on that. And I would just like to remind again, back in March, while 2023 sets out a great foundation, I sent a letter highlighting automation that MISO and SPP have adopted, and all of the information about the rollout of automated generator interconnection studies are on their websites for the whole world to see. And there are ways that regulated entities can adopt that with no FERC regulation today and take the time that it takes to study these new requests down from 2 years to 10 days. And so everyone, I hope you'll consider that. Oil pipeline index that the chairman mentioned, I think this commission's been in a lot of different directions on this over the past few years. It's not lost on me that the last 5-year index changed 3 times. And so my perspective is that regulatory uncertainty, it creates risk. And that risk shows up in borrowing costs. And how high borrowing costs, they hurt everybody. They hurt pipelines, shippers, and consumers. And so the orders today, I think, set us out on a more predictable path. We're closing out 2 proceedings that the chairman mentioned for the current index, and then we're proposing a new one, all with 5 votes. And so that's wonderful to have the certainty and predictability there. Last thing, some of you may have noticed that the Department of Energy, that Secretary Wright sent us a letter recently, and the whole country's been talking about it. And I just have a couple comments on that. So Secretary Wright asked the Commission to deploy its expertise to think about how do we get new large loads connected to the transmission system faster, and do it as quickly and efficiently as possible, while protecting affordability and reliability for all consumers. And so I'm really excited to work with all my colleagues here and our staff to tackle this challenge. I see this just as a critical opportunity for collaboration on issues that have national importance. I don't see this as a Democrat or a Republican issue or a state versus federal issue. I see plenty of work for all of us to do together, with broad support. I mean, just this week we got a letter from Chairman Lee and Senator Ranking Member Heinrich from the Senate Energy and Natural Resources Committee, indicating they see a need to make progress on this issue. And so I'm committed to building consensus on this. The Federal Power Act is very clear. We've got some rules for states where they drive, and we also have FERC as the lead on the transmission regulation. And so I see this ANOPR as an invitation for us to work together to get reliable, affordable, and really, most importantly, rapidly available energy. And so key next steps, we've got our comments up on the ANOPR. I look forward to reviewing those. We also have an open proceeding on co-location in PJM. And I really look forward to working on that with the leadership of Chairman Swett and the new input from Commissioner LaCerte. And I'm really confident that we can make some progress that people will think makes sense. And I also just want to highlight that I think it's very helpful. The last bullet of that letter from Secretary Wright and what's been happening in our docket is under Federal Power Act Section 205. We've had RTOs and ISOs submit proposals to the Commission that address some of the issues highlighted there. And so this is all about speed. It's about building generation and connecting it to load rapidly. And I think that's a problem that I know we're all committed to solve. So thanks for listening, and back to you, Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner C.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. Happy early Thanksgiving. It always seems that the holidays are the busiest time on all fronts, and that's definitely true here at FERC. So thank you, as always, to our incredible staff here for the great work that the teams did preparing us to vote on the matters in front of us today, for the work that the teams did on the 86 matters, I think Madam Secretary said, since the last meeting, and for all of the other work that doesn't have a docket number, but that is still critical to the important work that we're doing here at FERC. Thank you so much. And especially for the good work that comes in an exciting time of transition. So on that, I also want to say welcome to our new colleagues. We're so excited to have you here. Chair Swett, I've just appreciated your energy and focus, leadership from day one on the job, and really looking forward to working with you and appreciate your respect and commitment to the work we're doing here and the people who make it possible. So thank you. Commissioner LaCerte, I'm also incredibly grateful for the experience that you bring from both public sector service and from the private sector, and looking forward to the unique and important perspectives that you bring to this work. So thank you as well for both of you and to your teams for your willingness to step into this role. I'll also echo the Yay 5 sentiment. I think that's a good way to put it, but I think seeing this whole table full, I think it represents the optimism and promise of the Commission when it's doing its job best on behalf of the American people, being able to bring together diverse life experiences and professional paths and those expertise in order to do this work well. So I'm eager for us to keep doing that work. As I think has been very clear from the comments so far this morning, there's a lot of that work to do. So thank you all and welcome to the Commission. Welcome as well to our colleagues from NARUC. We're glad to have you here. I especially appreciate getting to chat a little bit with Commissioner Cordova from Nevada earlier this morning. Really enjoyed that conversation. And welcome as well, especially to our colleagues who are here with us from Europe, from the Council on European Energy Regulators. We're really glad to have your perspective as well, and I'm looking forward to some really helpful and insightful conversations over the next couple of days as we are all working together on a number of common issues. So thank you for being here. Welcome to the meeting today. All I will say, the only item on the agenda that I will highlight is C1, which both has been talked about already, and so I won't spend too much time on it. But I am really glad for the opportunity to vote towards an important step towards removing red tape for LNG infrastructure by issuing an NOI for a blanket authorization program. 2 months ago at this table, I talked about my hope that the Commission would take up this important issue for responsible and more efficient approvals in the LNG context. I'm really grateful to our staff teams who have worked hard to make that possible, and to my colleagues for their support as we're able to collectively move forward on this step today. U.S.-made LNG plays a critical role in our economy and in meeting our commitments to our foreign partners, some of whom are here today. This is an important area, and it's the right time for us to be thinking through carefully how we can best do our job to ensure facility changes meet our statutory protections while moving forward with appropriate speed and administrative efficiency, especially as so many facilities in our country are reaching operational stages. I was also struck by C3 today that Commissioner Rosner mentioned when myself and my team were reviewing the items for this meeting. We're approving a methane-reducing compressor at an LNG facility, and it really struck me that this is the sort of smart upgrade that a blanket program might be able to speed along for us to be able to move these sort of changes faster and with less strain on everyone's resources. So I think there's a lot of good work for us to do in this area. Of course, this is only the first stage in this process. The public input is critical, so I'm really glad that we are able to put this out for comment. And I hope you all know we're eager for your suggestions and your feedback and reactions, and we will all be reviewing those carefully as we consider next steps forward. So with that said, I know there's a lot to get to, so that's all I have, and I'll pass it back to you.
Thank you. Commissioner Chang.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning, everyone. I want to start by, of course, adding my welcome, Chairman Swett and Commissioner LaCerte. I'm also Yay 5, and it's great to have you here, and it's been great also a pleasure to getting to know you a little bit, and I'm very much looking forward to working with you. It's also a moment to celebrate you, Chair. It's the first time the Commission has 3 women serving at the same time, so I'm very much welcome that. Also, warm welcome to McKenna and James. Really very much looking forward to getting to know you a little better and having you join us in this journey to serve the American people. Really looking forward to working with you. And I just want to say that it feels really good to know that the Commission is in good hands under your leadership, and I sincerely feel that way just working together in the last few weeks. I also want to thank Anton, who usually stands in the back here, and the team at OED for their hard work over the last 2 months. In an unprecedented year here, we have our OED team keeping us and keeping the agency running smoothly, including through a record-breaking shutdown. So I know it's been stressful for not just the staff, but also you and your team. So it's just, it's great to know that we have leadership here that really care about the people and care about the agency to keep us, operating even on trying times. So I very much appreciate your work and your team's work. We, of course, welcome our European friends here and NARUC friends. I'm looking forward to our conversation next to talk about sort of what we share in common as the challenges ahead of us and how we solve those problems. And I very much welcome the opportunity to talk during our roundtable. I also want to just make a comment about the NARUC meeting that just occurred in Seattle. I want to briefly touch on a couple of topics that I read about. One is the resolution on large load interconnection. While I won't comment at all about the substance of the resolution, I do want to acknowledge the work that went into NARUC and the teams that's worked together to get together a resolution. I know you care about this issue as much as we care about this issue, and I echo Commissioner Rosner's comment that I see this as an opportunity to work together. So I do take to heart that it took a lot of work for the NARUC committee and our friends from the state commissions to work together on this topic. And finally, I also want to talk about the report from the Gas Electric Alignment for Reliability Task Force, or known more as the GEAR Task Force. Gas electric coordination is one of the areas where there's ripe opportunity for improvements, and I know my team here has been working on this together, and I know FERC's reliability team has been working on this, and I just want to say my reading of the GEAR Task Force findings and the report really comprehensively talk about the challenges and a comprehensive set of recommendations for moving forward. So I look forward again to working with our state partners in working more on the gas and electric coordination issue, as this country really has more greater interconnection or greater connection between the gas and electric systems. On today's agenda, I want to address a few things on H1, which begins an inquiry to examine actions that the Commission could take to improve the process for and reduce delays in post-licensing activities at hydropower facilities. Now, during my time here, I've been working hard to better understand the needs of hydro facilities, and I've learned that every facility and every project is unique in many, many ways. But I also note that hydro is an extremely important resource for across the country. And throughout this past year, I've gained a better understanding how vital this is for so many parts of the country, including remote communities in Alaska who see small hydro as a lifeline to energy independence. So in our effort to meet this particular moment of rapid demand growth, as we all talk about, and the aging infrastructure, the Commission should look for ways to modernize and adapt. So I appreciate this ability to look forward and continue the effort in H1. A small note on the oil index, NOPR. We seem to all sort of want to talk a little bit about this. I want to just briefly address the oil pipeline five-year index looking forward, NOPR, that Commission issued this morning, not on the agenda today, but it was issued this morning collectively. This order is long overdue, and I'm glad that we finally issued it. We are on the short clock to finalize the index before the beginning of summer, this coming summer, next summer. So as my colleagues have already noted, the NOPR proposed trim the pipeline cost data set to the middle 80%. So we take the data from costs from various different pipelines, oil pipelines, from 80% down to 50% in this NOPR. The decision point, and by the way, this has been a source of debates over the many, many years at this Commission, and really lots of disagreements around this, and I concur that we should provide more certainty to the industry. While I'm voting for today's order in the NOPR, I want to emphasize that this is a proposal and not the final rule. So I definitely welcome comments from the industry, and which data set that the Commission ultimately selects depends on the collective input from the industry. So with that, I want to hand it back to you, Madam Chair. Really happy to have you here.
Thank you so much. Commissioner LaCerte.
Thank you, Chairman Swett. Thank you, my fellow commissioners, and good morning to everyone. I want to first thank President Trump for nominating me and for everyone who supported my nomination in the U.S. Senate. I join the chairman in thanking Commissioner Rosner and his team for their commendable work the past several months manning the ship, and Commissioner Hsiung and Commissioner Chang for governing from a commission of 3. Chairman Swett, congratulations on your designation as chair. I look forward to a close relationship here at FERC and undoubtedly a lifelong friendship gifted to us from adjoining seats in the U.S. Senate. I like to think of it as sitting next to someone on an airplane, but the plane doesn't land for 3 months. Thank you to the American energy workers who produce the energy we enjoy and rely upon in our daily lives. It's these Americans who put the steel in the ground to transmit to our home, to our work, so that industry can support high-paying jobs manufacturing products for our economy, and who keep our homes warm in the winter and cool in the summer. Finally, I join Laura in thanking the staff here at FERC who are outliers in the excellence of federal service. Since FERC is an economic regulator, it's important to share some of my personal background and my priorities so that my opinions and focus on the Commission are known, steady, and expected. I'm from South Louisiana, born and raised in Bayou Terrebonne on the Gulf Coast. My father worked offshore in oil and gas production, and my mother worked as a secretary in a pipe yard. I understand our nation's need for critical expansion of generation and transmission, now more so than ever. It's important that companies seeking to generate and transmit our energy are not thrown unnecessary obstacles to stymie their efforts. NEPA reviews across the federal government have run off course, failed to protect the environment, and often only serve to delay or derail infrastructure projects. All American people deserve better, and we have to do better. The AI data race must be met with bold action to ensure our economic security and national security continue to be preserved. The risks of inaction or delayed action are simply too great. I look forward to partnering with all stakeholders, from industry to our sister agencies, to Congress, to consumer groups, the environmental groups, to state and local governments to accomplish these goals. It's important that we undertake these challenges and all actions before the Commission with an eye on affordability. There are many people in this room who will be in this room during my tenure looking to curry favor for one project or industry. None of these people represent the ratepayer, but we do. Those people aren't paid to represent the people hard at work or at home caring for their families, but we are. I know that Americans are fearful of higher energy costs due to data center construction and the cost of additional transmission and infrastructure. It's our duty as commissioners to fully protect these people from undue costs, and I fully expect industry to act as partners in honoring this commitment. I want to be clear and direct to the American people. This commission is committed to protecting the ratepayers from unreasonable cost increases. We can do both, and I believe my commissioners and I are up for the challenge. We must do both. It's a challenge that must be met head-on and without delay. Overall, I'm but one vote on this 5-member commission, but during our shared tenure, my fellow commissioners may find me to be incredibly persuasive, or at the minimum, incredibly persistent. Next, I would like to introduce members of my team who will advise me on the work of the people. Tegan Flynn has joined my team as senior legal counsel. Tegan's been at the commission for 17 years. In the last 7 years, Tegan has served legal counsel to Commissioners McNamee and Christie, whom I greatly respect. Heidi Wirtz has joined my team as legal counsel. Heidi's been a legal advisor in the Commission's Office of General Counsel for 21 years, focusing on electric matters, and one of the original members of the Commission's rehearings group, created in 2016, where she authored a variety of orders addressing complex legal issues which survived appeal. Scott Kirk has joined my team as legal counsel. Before joining my team, Scott was part of the Commission's Office of General Counsel, where he advised the Commission over 3 years on MISO energy markets and transmission issues. Prior to joining the Commission, Scott spent over a decade as an active duty JAG in the Air Force, including an assignment as Chief of the Air Force's Utility Law Field Support Center, where he oversaw, among other things, a nationwide portfolio of electric and gas rate cases before the Commissions on behalf of the Air Force and other federal executive agencies. Andrew Knopp has joined my team as legal counsel. Prior to joining my team, Andrew has worked in the Commission's Office of General Counsel for 3 years on infrastructure projects and gas rates. Before joining the Commission, Andrew spent 5 years in private practice at a large law firm in Houston, working on a variety of topics, including Commission jurisdictional matters, such as gas pipeline certificates, Henshaw 311 pipelines, and rate issues. We'll have 2 more staff members join the team before the final meeting of the year. We'll make their introductions, and I'm very thankful for my team's continued service. Now to highlight a few topics on the consent agenda. First, I'm very pleased, as I repeat my colleagues, that the challenges of the past oil pipeline index seem to be in the rear view. We've advanced the 2025 oil pipeline index NOPR, and I look forward to all those comments. Second, I'm from Louisiana, the world capital of LNG exportation. Ensuring energy security and dominance is not only one of my top priorities, it's a top priority from our president and for our nation. If we cannot supply our allies with liquefied natural gas, they'll be forced to trade with our adversaries, making us weaker and less prosperous. Today's action makes a major advancement in cutting red tape for energy infrastructure and trade. Blanket authorizations for pipelines have produced a lower regulatory burden for those companies who seek to invest in our infrastructure, allowing more projects to be built and maintained with a lower administrative cost. I'd like to point out some examples of matters that have come before the Commission that may have been covered by this blanket authorization proposal. Ecoelectrica came before FERC this year seeking an order amending their NGA Section 3 authorization to increase their send-out capacity from a rate of 250 gallons per minute to 500 gallons per minute of the LNG supply pipeline project located in Puerto Rico. This action involved no new facilities or construction activities. Port Arthur LNG sought an order amending their NGA Section 3 authorization to permit continuous construction work. Elba Liquefaction Co. sought an order amending their NGA Section 3 authorization to make modifications to existing liquefaction facilities to install and operate new liquid nitrogen vaporizers to increase the terminal's production capacity from 2.5 million metric tons to 2.9 MTPA. Venture Global Calcasieu Pass sought an order amending their NGA Section 3 status, authorizing to increase the project's authorized export capacity from 12.0 to 12.4 MTPA. No new facilities or construction activities were proposed. Cameron LNG sought an order amending their NGA Section 3 authorization to make design changes such as the addition of a feed gas booster compressor and the replacement of the Train 4 refrigerant compressor with gas turbine drives to electric drive motors and other minor upgrades. These are but a few examples. When we reduce the administrative burden on matters covered by the proposed blanket, we'll also free up the Commission for additional bandwidth on other important and pressing issues here at FERC. This approach is common sense. It's good practice to look at what has worked internally in our own house and apply that framework to more broadly to other matters. I look forward to the comment period and input from all for consideration of this proposal. I'm pleased that this framework is also being applied through requests for comments on the blanket authorization for hydro projects. Hydro provides a vital baseload power supply for so much of America, especially disproportionately, as Commissioner Chang noted, in Alaska and in the West. These Americans deserve everything we can do to be a better partner to the fullest extent of our jurisdiction. I look forward to comments on these proposals. I wanted to comment on E2 on the docket. This is a very complicated matter where, although we're reversing decision, I'd like to compliment the staff on navigating a really dizzying fact pattern, one that I had to read and then reread more times than I would admit here at the table. I want to emphasize that although we find SERI's proposal to include their costs as just and reasonable in this case, actuarial records versus actual accounting records are not the same thing. We should not take lightly the failure of major utilities to retain proper accounting records as required, and the failure to do so may be at their own peril. Finally, we have a large backload of deregulatory actions, a series of votes which I applaud the colleagues. It's important to declutter our docket. While these ideas and concept may eventually return, they serve no good in looming in purgatory for years on end. Again, I thank you all for your work here as partners in this body at FERC. I'm honored to join this body today, and I yield my time, which doesn't exist, to the chairman.
I'll take your non-existent time. We are ready, Madam Secretary, to move to the consent agenda.
Since the issuance of the Sunshine Act notice on November 13, 2025, no items have been stricken from this morning's agenda. Your consent agenda for this morning is as follows. Electric items, E1, E2, E3, E4, E5, and E6. Miscellaneous items, M1 and M2. Gas items, G1, G2, G3, and G4. Hydro item, H1. Certificates items, C1, C2, C3, and C4. We will now take a vote on this morning's consent agenda items. The vote begins with Commissioner LaCerte.
Aye.
Commissioner Chang.
I vote aye.
Commissioner C.
I vote aye.
Commissioner Rosner.
Aye.
And Chairman Swett.
Aye.
We now turn to discussion and presentation. The first item for discussion and presentation this morning is item A3, the 2025-26 Winter Energy Market and Reliability Assessment presentation. There will be a presentation by Eric Primosch from the Office of Technical Reporting and Economics, Shannon Zaret, Also from the Office of Technical Reporting and Economics, Hsiung from the Office of Electric Reliability, and Robert Tallman from the North American Electric Reliability Corporation. They are accompanied by Mary Wierzbicki from the Office of Technical Reporting and Economics and Alfred Corbett from the Office of Electrical Reliability. There will be a PowerPoint presentation. You may begin.
The Office of Electric Reliability and the Office of Technical Reporting and Economics are pleased to present a summary of the 2025-2026 Winter Energy Market and Electric Reliability Assessment. The presentation and additional slides with further context will be posted on the Commission's website at www.ferc.gov. Next slide, please. This winter, staff expects grid operators to have adequate generating resources to meet demand across the United States under normal operating conditions. The overall outlook is complex, with factors like higher natural gas prices and near-record electricity demand being balanced against a milder weather forecast, a substantial build-out of new generation, and significant transmission upgrades. While the system appears well prepared for normal winter weather, NERC assesses that a prolonged and severe cold snap could create tight supply conditions in specific regions, requiring real-time operational mitigations to maintain reliability. To discuss this outlook, let's start with the weather. Next slide, please. For the upcoming winter, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, expects slightly warmer than average temperatures, shown as orange colors on the map, across much of the eastern and southern U.S., extending from the East Coast into the desert Southwest and California. The rest of the continental United States is forecast to be slightly colder than average, or in mostly central parts of the country, shown in white, to have equal chances of above or below normal temperatures. Nationally, the U.S. Energy Information Administration, or EIA, expects a slightly warmer winter, projecting 8% fewer heating degree days, a measure of how cold the temperature is expected to be relative to last winter. But extreme winter storms are difficult to predict more than a few weeks in advance. Drought conditions across much of the west and central United States are expected to continue in the winter. The resulting dry conditions could significantly reduce hydroelectric output in WECC, disrupt fuel deliveries, and impair cooling for power plants in the central U.S., and elevate wildfire risk across the country. These weather patterns, particularly the risk of unpredictable cold, have a direct impact on our next topic, the natural gas market. Next slide, please. Natural gas prices are projected to be higher at nearly every hub this winter than last. The chart shows natural gas future prices at key trading hubs across the country. The green bars represent the expectations for the coming winter, while the gray and dark blue bars show prices from 2025 and 2024, respectively. As the national benchmark, prices at the Henry Hub are projected to be up 26% from last winter, averaging $4.39 per MMBTU. The chart also highlights regional price variations. As you can see on the far right, natural gas future prices are substantially higher in New York and New England. For example, at the Algonquin Hub near Boston, prices are expected to average $12.76 per MMBTU. Natural gas storage inventories are fundamental to price formation as they help balance supply and demand. At the start of this winter, inventories were above the 5-year average, but marginally lower than last year's record levels. Natural gas storage inventories are forecasted to remain relatively robust through winter. This national picture also includes important regional variations. Lower than average storage inventories in the East and Midwest are being offset by higher than average levels in the Mountain, Pacific, and South Central regions. Next slide, please. Looking at natural gas production and demand, the outlook for this winter shows continued production growth alongside slightly declining overall demand. Total U.S. demand is forecast to exceed production this winter as in previous winters, with the difference to be met by storage inventory withdrawals. First, let's look at production, represented by the solid black bars. Output is forecast to rise for the 5th consecutive year, reaching 108 billion cubic feet per day, which is a 3% increase from last winter. In contrast, total demand, shown in the stacked bars, is projected to be at 128 billion cubic feet per day, a slight decrease from last year. However, while overall demand is slightly lower, that composition of that demand is shifting. The most notable change, which you can see in the dark blue segment of the bars, is the rapid growth in net exports. This growth is driven by increased LNG export capacity from new terminals like Calcasieu Pass, Corpus Christi, and Plaquemines, as well as higher pipeline exports to Mexico. Gross LNG exports alone are forecast to jump by nearly 19% from last winter, reinforcing the United States' position as the world's largest LNG exporter. Next slide, please. That concludes our outlook on the natural gas market. Now, I will turn it over to my colleague Shannon Zaret to discuss electricity markets.
All right, thanks, Eric. So let's take a look at winter capacity additions and retirements. So the EIA tracks generators entering and exiting service through Form 860M. And the data shows that generators are expected to add 56 gigawatts of new net winter capacity. The chart at the left shows that this breaks down to nearly 65 gigawatts of new additions, offset by 9 gigawatts of retirements. Solar and batteries comprise about 80% of new capacity additions, mostly in WEC and ERCOT. And then coal and natural gas account for about 88% of retired capacity, mostly in WEC and MISO. But what's notable here is the pace of change. So this year, we're seeing the largest annual capacity addition in over a decade, while retirements have slowed by more than 50% from its 2023 peak of 18 gigawatts. So for this snapshot in time, additions are accelerating, retirements are decelerating. So shifting to transmission, the bar chart on the right highlights that nearly 19,000 line miles of transmission will be upgraded or added between last winter and the end of this winter. Nearly 60% of that projected mileage is for storm and fire hardening, as well as improved reliability. Most of those lines, I'd say the grand majority, 75%, are lower voltage lines, but you do have a significant amount of 230 line voltage projects, mostly in CAISO. Okay, next slide. All right, shifting our focus to the demand side. This year, EIA projects total electricity consumption to reach 1,035 terawatt hours, which would be a slight drop from the record high set last year of 1,041. Last year is that blue line on the top. This winter's projection, which is shown as that dashed green line right underneath, is the second highest level in the last 5 years and 3% above the 5-year average. The 5-year average is that red line. And the bar chart on the right breaks down this winter's electricity consumption by end-use sector. So while the residential sector is still poised to be the largest consumer at 387 terawatt hours, the commercial sector is expected to see the strongest growth, with energy use projected to be about 5% above its 5-year average, which the EIA attributes in part to data centers in the PJM market. Okay, next slide. All right, I'm now going to turn it over to my colleague Joe to better understand what these trends mean for regional reliability. Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon. In this slide, we compare expected demands and supply data in NERC assessments areas between last winter and this winter. The solid bar shows net internal demands, and the diamonds show the available resource and net transfer values. Electricity demand is expected to be higher this winter than last in most regions, with increase projected in WEC, US, PJM, and MISO. NERC forecasts U.S. net internal electric demands to increase by 1.6% to 677 gigawatts this upcoming winter. This increase in demand is pressuring utilities to accelerate infrastructure upgrades and energy resource deployments, and to reconsider scheduled resource retirement to maintain grid reliability. To serve that demand, NERC forecasts a national decrease of approximately 0.5% in electric generation capacity and net energy transfer of 967 gigawatts this year, with decreasing in MISO by about 5% and ERCOT by about 6.5%, while the other regions remain flat except for a slight increase in SPP and WEC US. Please note that NERC's projections for capacities differ from the EIA forecast that was discussed earlier. Specifically, NERC's forecast includes supply resource with firm capacity, such as a power purchase agreement or designated network resource and transfer with firm contract. Meanwhile, the actual electricity demand will depend on a number of factors, including the number, durations, and characteristics of extreme weather events. Next, please. In response to recent extreme weather events, NERC proposed and the Commission approved 2 reliability standards to improve winter reliability. EOP 12-3 requires generators to implement plans for operating at their extreme cold weather temperature by October 1st, 2025. Separately, TPLA-1 requires planning coordinators to conduct an extreme temperature assessment every 5 years to evaluate bulk electric system performance during extreme hot and cold temperature. Gas electric coordination remains critical for grid reliability, particularly during extreme weather. A January 2025 study by MPCC concluded that natural gas infrastructure in that region is fully or nearly fully utilized during modeled cold weather events. The study suggests that any gas site contingency, such as a pipeline disruptions, could significantly stress the systems and threaten grid reliability. The Commission also issued a NOPR designed to improve transparency and situational awareness at the gas-electric interface. The new standard proposed by NASB would require interstate gas pipeline to post schedule quantity information for directly connected power plants, including their location, affiliated RTO and ISO, and total scheduled volume. In conclusion, while infrastructure vulnerability continue to challenge gas-electric coordinations, enhanced collaborations and improved winterization efforts are helping to ensure reliability. Next slide, please. I will now turn to my colleague from NERC, Robert Tallman, to discuss NERC's winter reliability assessments.
Thank you. And good morning. First, on behalf of NERC and our ERO colleagues, I want to thank the FERC commissioners for the invitation to participate in today's meeting and thank my FERC staff colleagues for coordinating this presentation. This Tuesday, NERC published its 2025-2026 Winter Reliability Assessment, and in that report identified 2 trends affecting resource adequacy across the bulk power system for the upcoming winter. First, aggregate peak demand for all NERC assessment areas has risen by 20 gigawatts, 2.5% since the previous winter. U.S. West, Southeast, and Mid-Atlantic areas with data center development have the highest growth rates. In some areas, significant increases in demand contribute to lower reserve margins. The second trend is an increasingly complex resource mix that can present additional challenges for operators. Since last winter, total BPS resources have seen a net increase of 9.4 gigawatts. Generation accounts for 1,335 megawatts of this increase. The net increase in generation comes from a substantial amount of new battery storage resources, which is being offset by a decline in wind capacity that is a result of revised valuations of wind resource contributions at peak demand hours in some of the larger assessment areas. The largest contributor to the increase in resources for this winter comes from demand response programs. While nearly all areas have adequate resources for normal winter peak demand, prolonged wide area cold snaps continue to be challenging. This risk map shows the areas that NERC has identified as having an elevated risk of supply shortfalls, which means that higher than expected demand or more than typical generator outages can cause a supply shortfall. Extreme winter conditions pose unique but familiar risks to generator performance, accurate demand forecasting, and fuel availability. Natural gas fuel is essential to winter electric system reliability. However, extreme winter weather can adversely impact natural gas production and available pipeline capacity, most notably in the U.S. Northeast. Natural gas-fired power generator availability and output can be threatened when natural gas supplies are insufficient. For regions with pipeline capacity that is highly subscribed by natural gas local distribution companies and other firm shippers, extreme cold weather events can create risks for otherwise available power generators that lack firm natural gas transportation arrangements. Next slide, please. NERC has identified several recommendations for the industry and partners to reduce reliability risks for this upcoming winter. These recommendations are informed by industry best practices and lessons that FERC and ERO staff have found in analyzing past extreme cold weather events. They include proactively completing cold weather operating plans and generator preparations, procuring natural gas and backup fuels well in advance of winter storms, anticipating potential loads to exceed forecasts during extreme cold periods, and coordination among utilities and regulators when public appeals for conservation become necessary. All assessment areas, in conclusion, all assessment areas are expected to have adequate resources available under normal winter peak load conditions. However, several areas are at some risk of having insufficient energy supplies to meet demand during prolonged severe winter conditions. While cold weather regulatory and electric industry winterization initiatives introduced since winter storms Uri and Elliott continue to show positive impacts on winter generation readiness, severe Arctic weather over the past several winters serves as a reminder of the need for cold weather preparations and heightened awareness of winter's reliability risks. The full winter reliability assessment is available on NERC's website. Thank you. I now turn the presentation back to my FERC colleagues.
This includes the 2025-2026 Winter Energy Market and Electric Reliability Assessment. We are happy to answer your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, team, for your incredible work. I know how much went into that. We're very grateful. I have only one question. With both LNG exports and domestic demand growing, will our natural gas production in America keep pace? And how do you think our gas systems will perform this winter?
Thank you for the question. We expect production combined with storage inventories will help supply keep pace with the increase in LNG export demand. On slide 5, we showed that the EIA was forecasting production to be about 108 BCF per day this winter, which is 3% higher than last winter, and the highest winter average that we've seen. Regarding the natural gas system performance, we've seen producers really focus on improving winterization for gas producers, and they are improving their winterization in terms of preventing equipment failure, preventing wellhead freeze-offs, really trying to maintain as much production as possible on their system during these winter weather events. This strategy was effective last winter, as we saw the collaboration of producers, pipelines, storage operators all work together to help meet peak record demand of 150 BCF per day. We expect that to be the case again this winter, where the supply should be able to continue to meet peak winter demand. And then on the regional markets, LNG imports continue to play a role, specifically in New England, to help ensure supply when there are pipeline constraints during major winter events.
Thank you very much. I'll turn to my colleagues for any questions. Commissioner Rosner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Team, thanks for this presentation. Eric, Shannon, Anjo, Robert, great job. Managers, Mary and Alfred, you did it. And thanks to the big team supporting the work in the back. It's really important work to look at how the system is anticipated to perform in the winter. Earlier this year, we took a look back at last winter, and we had a really great conversation about, we were able to look at what went right instead of what went wrong. And so I just want to note again, you noted some of this work, the winter standards that FERC and NERC have been working on for many years, and the industry has now, I think, fully, if not nearly fully, implemented. All this, takes years of effort, and it's really important, and it's not an accident. So thank you for that work, and if anyone from industry is listening, thank you for doing the work to get the system reliable. Two things jumped out at me from the report. From NERC's report, we're seeing demand growth exceeding new additions of generation at a 2-to-1 ratio, which isn't sustainable. And I think we've talked a lot about this at the table, but this commission has been looking at ways to get things moving through our process faster. And I think we've done some work. We need to do more because it takes too long to build in this country. And so I think this report for me is just maintaining that laser focus on that. And I'm glad we have some state colleagues here who have a separate but similar goal to us of making sure we have a reliable system. The other thing that jumped out was just how important interregional transfer capacity remains as a critical tool to meeting reliability at peak. And I'll just read a quick quote from the NERC report, which is, quote, "Sustained energy availability with interregional flexibility will be key to maintain reliability through the 2025 to 2026 and future winter seasons." And so this just fits with my philosophy, which is all tools in the toolbox, all of the above. And so I'll ask my one question. Could the team speak to how new transmission, I think, Shannon, you walked through all the transmission that's getting added and upgraded, how new transmission might support the grid this winter? And Eric, you talked a lot about natural gas infrastructure. How about the same for additional natural gas infrastructure?
Yes, great question. So if we go back to, I think it's slide 6, let's try that. So we've got the grid being bolstered by about 20,000 line miles. By November, 75% of that 20,000 should be built and ready to go. If you look at the geographic distribution of this work, you've got mostly the main hubs are ERCOT, MISO, and PJM, but most of the United States is kind of bolstering their transmission line capacity. So ERCOT is really focusing on storm and fire hardening as well as load growth. MISO is looking at asset renewable and reliability. PJM is also looking at asset renewal, aging infrastructure, and reliability. And CAISO is dealing a lot with the fires that they've been dealing with in California. So 97% of their new transmission work targets storm and fire hardening. So what you've got here is a combination of new capacity, reinforced infrastructure that addresses both aging systems and weather vulnerabilities. So that should help the grid manage winter demand this year.
Yeah, on the gas side, the long-form report talks about a few projects, some pipeline projects, one large one helping to support the Venture Global Plaquemines LNG export facility, and then some smaller ones also helping to support LNG. They're all located in the Gulf Coast. We also have a storage project that we noted that's adding about 6.5 BCF of storage, again, in the Texas market.
Great. That's all for me. Thanks, team.
Commissioner C.
Thank you all. I really appreciate all of the work that went into this and really appreciate your analysis. Certainly noticed a number of the things that I think my colleagues have mentioned. Credit where it is due, certainly when it comes to the great work that's been done on winterization and analyzing when things have gone wrong in recent years. I appreciate the proactive analysis we have here. None of us like to be in the position where we're in a postmortem, and it's good to see a lot of the good work that's been done when we have been in those terrible situations in recent years. There's also a lot of factors that go into the concerns we have today. We can't highlight all of them. I really commend the full report, but I did want to put a pin on one of the things that jumped out to me as well. Diversity of our resources and our grid is essential, and certainly it jumped out to me the statistic that the vast majority of retirements are in baseload power sources, while the vast majority of additions are intermittent. I think it's critical for us to remember some of the reliability challenges that can come when we lose that right balance of diversity. But the question that I had for you is I wanted to talk a little bit more on your thoughts of what we're seeing on gas-electric coordination. And some of that is I do also want to give credit to our colleagues from NARUC for the recommendations that came out of the GEAR task force recently. Thank you so much for the important work that's gone in there. But this assessment, again, points to some persistent gaps between electric and natural gas sectors, especially challenges over long holiday weekends, when, of course, many of us have said it always seems inevitably these terrible storms happen, and limited visibility into operational data from gas producers and suppliers. We know a one-size-fits-all winterization mandate isn't going to work across regions with important differences there. I do really appreciate the ongoing coordination among state, federal, and industry partners as we improve communication and situational awareness. And I'm just curious, from the analysis that you all did, can you tell us some more about some of the issues that you might see, particularly the coordination between the gas and electric sectors when it comes to preparations going into this winter season? We have a lot of polite people trying to see who wants to take that.
I'll just speak to work I've done in the past on this. We did a few look backs at previous winter storms, Winter Storm Jerry, Heather, and we had communications with industry trying to understand what worked really well. That was at that time a few years ago. We saw historically high demand and markets maintained relatively reasonable natural gas prices. And the one thing we heard was there was a tremendous amount of work happening on the producer side. We talked some about this where producers are continuing to maintain their production. They had staff on site. They were coordinating with pipelines. They were coordinating with state officials, ensuring roads were clear. There's just a tremendous amount of work going on the pipeline side. A lot of information coming out in terms of postings to let market participants know what's currently going on with markets. So that's something that I think is continuing. That communication is important. I mean, obviously there's a lot of work to do, but I think that's something that we're going to continue to see for this upcoming winter as well.
Yes. Obviously, gas-electric coordination is a very crucial subject that the staff has been following. There are a couple key highlights I will emphasize. First is the proper winterizations. As we mentioned in the slides, that there are multiple reliability centers went into effect, specifically the recommendations that post-Storm Uri and Elliott. A lot of the NERC has proposed and commissioned adopt some of those things to kind of emphasize like winterization for key components, not just on the gas side, but also on the electric component as well. Another big thing that is the fuel availability that's being addressed with the new ISO New England, for example. The 21-day forecast is trying to give the industry enough time to react if there is any storm that is coming, and they can prepare to procure their fuel in preparations for the extreme weather conditions. And lastly is the well-enforced situational awareness. Like Eric pointed out, the more communication, the better, so everybody know where everybody's at, and that way we can work together to prepare our systems and prepare for the winter conditions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Chang.
Just want to echo all the good work that has gone into this. And as last year, I read this report very closely because I have always the fear of winter coming, and the particularly on gas and electric coordination issues that Commissioner C had mentioned. One thing that caught my eye, and I'm very curious if you have more sort of elaboration on this, one can imagine the effect of drought on hydroelectric facilities, of course. But this report talks about potential drought conditions and its impact on other generation, such as saltwater intrusion and high water temperature, which could pose operational risk to thermal generation. This is sort of new for me, although I think back in the days when I did some work in Texas, that was and was going through like a 6-year drought. That was one thing that was raised by some water hydro experts in Texas. So the generators that use once through cooling equipment, the low water levels and navigable waters affecting coal deliveries. Can you talk a little bit more about the drought and its impact on thermal generation? And is this something we need to worry about this winter, or is this something that we should be just watching for future winters? Can you just add more color to the effect of drought?
Yes, this is a great question that doesn't get a lot of attention as well. So it's a trend that's definitely becoming a little more predominant over the years. So essentially what happens is if you have a dry summer and you don't get any water refilling, you don't get enough rain in the fall, to get those water levels back up, you start getting the saltwater intrusion happening at the mouth of the rivers. So the salt water starts coming into the fresh water. And so if you have generators that are at the mouth of that river, you start getting salt water coming into their intake tanks, so they can't cool as efficiently. It starts to corrode and damage. And the cooling water may not be cool enough to cool things. And if they've got a pump, if the water levels are low, the pump's not going to work. So there's a lot of operational challenges that come with lower water levels. So this has been happening on the Mississippi River pretty predominantly since 2022 and has continued through 2025 and what we expect to happen in 2026. 2023 was one of the worst levels. We have a pretty staggering statistic here with the Mississippi River Basin. Typically used to get 50% of its flow from the Ohio River, and now it's only getting 8%. So these levels are pretty significant. The other area where this happens typically is the Delaware River as well. And so last year and the year before, 2024, those kinds of things happen. So what you start to see is the generators will start to derate, and in some cases the generators said if the salinity or the water levels get bad enough, we're going to have to cease operations. So it's not necessarily a significant amount of generators, but for those that rely on that river, in particular Delaware and Mississippi, it's becoming significant.
Okay, thank you very much. Just one other question. I read, and it was in your slide, that the natural gas prices, you estimate, I think, national average is about 26% higher this winter than last winter. And to me, that struck me as like 26% is significant. Do you have a sense, and you also said in your report that natural gas serves about 40% of our gas, or of our generation, so electric generation. Do you have a sense how frequently in the winter gas is on the margin, such that we should anticipate from a electric market perspective that this gas price increase is significantly going to affect our electric prices as well? I'm not sure who. Yeah, Eric, thank you so much.
Sure. I don't have a number for you regionally, but I know looking at ISO report, gas on the margin approximately 80% of the time. In MISO, it's about 2/3 of the time. But obviously, when pipelines are constrained, gas prices rise. That may shift the role of which fuels on the margin at that point in time.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's all for me.
Thanks. Commissioner LaCerte.
First, I want to say thank you for the outstanding report. I know how much work goes into these, and I wanted to, again, echo my colleagues and thank each and every one of you, and every one of you now at the table that had something to do with the report. I know that many hands went into this, so thank you for that. I want to thank Judy for asking the question on saltwater intrusion. You know, my family home in Baton Rouge is about a mile from the Mississippi levee, so I know it's an important issue. So thank you for that, and look forward to talking to you more about it. I had a quick question on gas prices, if I may. I know we talked about the forecasting for gas prices. So it's universally expected to be above last year. And I know the report attributes this to demand outpacing production. So my question is, if we can get more steel on the ground, i.e. if we are able to get more pipelines and pipeline expansions built faster, wouldn't that have a downward impact on prices moving forward? Wouldn't that be expected?
Yes, additional pipeline infrastructure between production areas and demand areas could help reduce price differences between those regions, potentially resulting in lower prices for market area end users, particularly at places where additional pipeline infrastructure would help relieve kind of pipeline constraints in those regions. That could signal potential need for additional pipeline infrastructure there. I'll caveat that with, natural gas price dynamics on any given day could be impacted by factors outside of just additional pipeline infrastructure, such as supply, demand, weather, or system disruptions.
Thank you, and I want to compliment your work on extreme weather. Obviously, I've beat the drum on extreme weather for many years, both at my time managing the CSB and my time in private practice. It's always harder to get people's attention on winterization versus tropical forecasting. It's much less sexy, and in a building full of unsexy work, that's saying something. So I want to compliment you all on that. I know Winter Storm Uri kind of brought that to everyone's attention, and we can see the importance of it more and more. But also, I know that it's a constant drumbeat effort to make sure ISTRI gets the point, and how important it is to prepare for winter season, just as you prepare for extreme weather on the other side. So thank you for that. A quick question. The impacts of the widespread cold weather events on the electric reliability portion. I know they're a concern. What issues do you see related to preparation for this particular winter?
Oh, thank you for the question, Commissioner. As we look back on last winter's cold weather in January, we did see improvements in generator preparedness. There have been work the last few years since Uri and Elliott on developing generator preparedness standards. The last one, EOP 12, approved here in September, completes the list of standards that we had been putting in place since Winter Storm Uri. And I think the last two winters, with the look backs at what went right, they do appear to show improvements in generator preparedness and availability.
Thank you. I want to encourage industry listening today to make sure they heed the warnings of winterization and extreme weather. I yield my time.
The next item for discussion and presentation is A4, the fiscal year 2025 report on enforcement. There will be a presentation by Kevin Dinan from the Office of Enforcement and Regulatory Accounting. He is accompanied by Jessica Hunt and Aaron Melly, also from the Office of Enforcement and Regulatory Accounting. You may begin.
Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. Today, the Office of Enforcement and Regulatory Accounting is releasing its 19th annual report on enforcement. As in previous years, enforcement staff prepared this report to provide information about enforcement's activities over the past fiscal year. The report discusses the activities performed by Enforcement's Division of Investigations, or DOI, Audits and Accounting, or DAA, and Analytics and Surveillance, also known as DAS, during the past fiscal year. I am joined today by my colleagues Jessica Hunt from DAA and Aaron Melly from DAS. As noted in the report, enforcement's priorities in fiscal year 2025 focused on 5 distinct areas: fraud and market manipulation, serious violations of the reliability standards, anti-competitive conduct, threats to the nation's energy infrastructure, and conduct that threatens the transparency of regulated markets. The report summarizes audits, litigation filings, and settlements that were approved by the Commission. These resources are also publicly available on eLibrary. Enforcement's report also includes a discussion of non-public activities, including summaries of investigations and self-reports that were closed without further action by DOI. The report also includes illustrative examples of the market monitor referrals that staff reviewed and closed without additional investigation. These summaries can be helpful to companies seeking to comply with the Commission's regulations and orders. To maintain confidentiality, the companies and individuals whose conduct was under review in these matters are not identified in these summaries. The Division of Audits and Accounting has included illustrative examples or illustrative compliance alerts that cover nearly a dozen distinct areas where there have been consistent concerns or non-compliance of significant impact. To assist jurisdictional entities in getting a better understanding of a particular topic, docket numbers of one or more recent audits or Commission orders dealing with the various topics are provided in the report so that jurisdictional entities may review the more recent findings related to a particular topic area. The report also gives a description of the audits completed in fiscal year 2025, which summarize staff's findings of noncompliance and provides context for audits that resulted in refunds and recoveries. Additionally, the report summarizes DAA's role in advising the Commission in proceedings involving various accounting matters and in administration of the Commission's electric quarterly report and various financial reporting from filing requirements and programs. The Division of Analytics and Surveillance provides a comprehensive review of its surveillance program and describes how it analyzed transactions and market data in fiscal year 2025 to detect potential manipulation, anti-competitive behavior, and other anomalous activities in the energy markets. Additionally, this section of the report includes details about DAS processes and practices related to reviewing market monitor referrals and data management. In fiscal year 2025, the Commission approved 11 settlements between enforcement and subjects to resolve pending investigative matters. The settlements totaled approximately $36.57 million, which included approximately $22.84 million in penalties and disgorgement of approximately $13.73 million. The Commission also approved a settlement of one administrative proceeding for $5 million in restitution and a Commission penalty order for a payment of $30,000 to the owner of a dam at which a hydroelectric project was located. In fiscal year 2025, DOI staff opened 24 new investigations and brought 17 investigations to closure with no action. It also closed 163 self-reports without further action, closed one MMU referral without further action, and resolved 307 calls made to the Commission's enforcement hotline. In addition, DOI continued in 2025 to litigate 2 cases on the Commission's behalf in federal courts. In fiscal year 2025, the Division of Audits and Accounting completed 10 audits of public utility, natural gas, and oil pipeline companies covering a wide array of topics. The audits resulted in 63 findings of noncompliance, 260 recommendations for corrective action, and directed $80 million in refunds and recoveries. Additionally, DAA acted through the Chief Accountant's delegated authority or advised on 447 proceedings, including acting on 143 accounting filings requesting approval of proposed accounting treatment or financial reporting matter, and assisting with 304 rate, pipeline certificate, merger and acquisition, and facility purchase and sale proceedings before the Commission. DAA also assessed EQR submittals received from more than 3,600 entities each quarter as to timeliness and, through automated validations, accuracy and reliability of data. DAA also administered and oversaw compliance with the requirements of FERC Form Numbers 1, 1F, 2, 2A, 3Q, 6, 6Q, 60, and FERC 61, which in fiscal year 2025 involved assessing the Commission's receipt of approximately 2,556 financial reporting form submittals. Finally, in 2025, the Division of Analytics and Surveillance continued monitoring for potential market manipulation and other anomalous activities in the markets. Natural gas surveillance screens produced approximately 1,780 surveillance reviews by DAS staff, who then conducted 24 additional in-depth inquiries for specific trading behavior and made one referral to DOI for investigation. On the electric side, DAS conducted 1,920 surveillance reviews. This surveillance activity identified 36 instances of market behavior that required further analysis. DAS staff made a total of 10 electric surveillance-related referrals to DOI for the fiscal year. During fiscal year 2025, DAS also worked with DOI on approximately 70 investigations involving allegations of manipulation in commission jurisdictional natural gas and electricity markets or violations of tariff provisions. In these efforts, DAS provided analytical and data-based assessments of market activity related to ongoing investigations, supported DOI in its fact-finding, and calculated unjust profits and market harm resulting from alleged violations to assist with determining a civil penalty recommendation under the Commission's penalty guidelines. In addition, DAS conducts analytical reviews of wholesale electric market-based rate transactions to detect the potential exercise of market power. Staff routinely analyze the combined results of 35 statistical indicators to detect potential instances of the exercise of market power within 59 geographic regions or market hubs. During fiscal year 2025, DAS staff reviewed over 202.7 million market-based rate transactions filed through the Commission's EQRs. Copies of Enforcement's annual report are now available on the Commission's website. That concludes our presentation for this morning, and we're happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Unless you're wearing those AI glasses, I'm very impressed with what appears to be memorization of an incredible amount of data.
Practice makes perfect.
I think it was about 10 years ago I sat in your seat when I collaborated and led the enforcement report and presented. So thank you all for an incredible amount of work. And I will not pull a Norman Bay and ask you a surprise question, which is what he did to me. I know from personal experience that the industry waits for bated breath with this report every year. And probably one of the biggest takeaways for market entities is, what does this mean for compliance, the trends that are in enforcement's work of the past year? So if you had a chance to speak to those entities directly, which you are now, what is your advice on the biggest takeaways for their compliance programs from what you've found this year?
So that's a helpful question. Although this year's report features cases in a variety of industry sectors, there's one constant you see in many of the cases, and that is that value needs to be provided consistent with the obligations imposed by the terms of services an entity is being paid for. For example, if a generator signs up to be a capacity resource, it is important that it be able to provide the amount of capacity for which it has been paid at a level of timeliness and reliability on which that payment was based. As another example, on the demand response side, if an entity agrees to provide a demand response service, it must have actual customers that agree to provide a response consistent, again, with the terms of the demand response program it agreed to participate in. A good compliance department in any entity will be familiar with these kinds of commitments and will work with its operations staff to ensure that these commitments are kept.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Commissioner Rosner, do you have any questions?
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, team, for all the work and the continued work going forward on this. I just want to say a few things. No questions, so don't worry. But I just want to highlight how important your work is to make sure that the Commission can accomplish its mission of delivering reliable, affordable energy to the American people and having that trust with them. I also, just reacting to the question that the chairman asked, I think what I heard was make sure it works. That's a good role for a compliance program. It's just if you're going to provide a service, just make sure it works. That resonates. I just want to highlight one or two things from your report. You all are incredibly busy, and probably not a lot of people know this, but from the report I read, you all reviewed 2.7 million transactions through our EQR database, and from your report and presentation, thousands of surveillance reviews. And from your work on disgorgement, restitution, refunds, you've returned millions of dollars back to the customers. And so, this obviously is just brushing the surface of the full scope of your work. but I just think this office has an important role to play, and thank you for doing it. Back to you, Chairman.
Commissioner C.
I also don't have any questions, but I want to thank you so much for this presentation. Kevin, Aaron, Jessica, thank you for your work here and highlighting the incredibly important work that's been done in the office over the past year. Janelle, thank you so much to you and to the whole team for all of this work. I know often, especially because the matters that this office deals with aren't on the same track as a lot of the voting items many of the times, and many of them are confidential, and for other reasons, it doesn't get the same public attention. But one of the huge takeaways I have from this report is just reiterating how much work is going on. I'm in a position where I get to see a lot of it, but I'm learning as much too about the very busy and very important work that's happening, and I'm grateful for that. This is such a critical piece of the work that we do as the Commission on behalf of American consumers when it comes to market monitoring and enforcement compliance in rate issues and when it comes to reliability concerns. So thank you so much for that critical work you do, and I'm really glad for opportunities like this every year for there to be more public attention on that important work. So thank you for what you all do in giving us this report today and the work that went into it, but more importantly for the work that you all do every day in this critical piece of the division. Thank you so much.
Commissioner Chang.
I just want to echo the same thing, keep it brief, but the work you do is foundational to the work the Commission does and protecting consumers. And I also put in my notes the 2.7 million transactions, et cetera. But I just want to echo the same thing. The work that you do keep the reliability at center to the mission of this commission and protecting consumers from unjust and unreasonable rates and prices. So you are really the foundational piece of this commission. I just want to really thank you for all the work, and I agree we don't put enough attention on the amount of analyses that goes into this work, but I just want to thank you repeatedly about the work you do. Thank you very much.
Commissioner LaCerte.
I'm learning very quickly that I'm very repetitive at the end of the totem pole here. But I echo my fellow commissioners, and I think it's important that you hear it from me too, because we haven't had the chance to engage yet. I know it goes straight to the fundamental core of FERC as for reliability and affordability and the Office of Enforcement. I think that I share their sentiments in the important work that you do. I'm very interested in it. I'm looking forward to engaging. I had one quick question. I'm interested in the tracking and trending of both statistics, the quantitative and the qualitative portion of your work that we see from year to year, so that we can properly kind of forecast maybe things we're doing right and things we're doing wrong. So how did this year's DOI standards compare to those of last?
So, Commissioner, looking at last year and this year, they were very similar in many respects. There were 13 settlements in fiscal year 2025, 12 in 2024. With respect to new investigations, there were 24 open in 2025, 30 in 2024. On closed investigations, 17 in 2025 and 10 in 2024. And with respect to self-reports, closed 163 in fiscal year 2025 and 158 closed with no further action in 2024.
I'm very much interested in continuing that discussion and in talking about the qualitative portion of that. So I'm going to ask my staff to get with you on a periodic basis to make sure we stay engaged. So thank you again.
You're welcome.
You might be the end of the totem pole, but you also might be the first commissioner to use the word sexy at a commission meeting.
Well, you're the second. So
I know. Thank you for that opportunity. Thank you, Chairman. I think we're all set. Okay, before we conclude, I have one final very important item to address. I'm very sad to announce that Jet Gebhardt, our Director of the Office of Energy Market Regulation, is leaving the Commission after over 14 years of service. Jet has served many roles, including Co-Chief of Staff for former Chairman LaFleur, an attorney in FERC's Office of Enforcement, and several positions in OEMR. Jet is a strong leader, and her commitment to FERC and her devotion to staff have profoundly impacted all of us. She's mentored many in the building, shaping and encouraging their career development and service, and she is incredibly respected throughout the agency for her strength and wisdom. I'm told her family's here today. Thank you all for the support that you have lended Jet so that she could do so much for our agency and for our country. We, including the American people, have all benefited from Jet's unwavering dedication, and we are far better for it. With that, it's my honor to give Jet the Chairman's Executive Leadership Award. Everyone, please join me in recognizing Jet. I'm pleased to announce that Valerie Teeter will become Acting Director of OEMR upon Jet's departure. Thank you very much, Valerie. Now, for my colleagues, if you have any final remarks. Commissioner Rosner.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm very sorry to see you go, but I'm also excited for your next steps. Most of the people who work with FERC realize this and know this, but Jet, you're an institution here. You've done so much for the agency. You've done so much for your team. I have seen you shape and make people grow into their career in ways that I think it's really rare to have a leader like you at a place like this. Well, actually, not at a place like this, just anywhere. We have lots of wonderful leaders here, but Jet, really, I just can't thank you enough for everything you've done. So I'll just tell a couple things about my work with you. First of all, before I was at FERC, I worked at the Department of Energy, and I remember meeting Jet then. Not everyone may know this, but the Department of Energy in the Obama years under Secretary Moniz was also sending letters to FERC. We talked about that, which was great. I've sent Jet, when I worked on staff here, many memos that came back looking very different, but also helped accelerate my career. So thank you. And I have people in my office who think the world of you and who are doing the work of this commission because you train them. And so thank you. And then the last thing, I just can't impress upon people enough how hard Jet and her colleagues work. We use Microsoft Teams to talk internally here and on email and things like that. And Teams has this thing, you're green if you're working, if you're available, if you're doing things. And I've been on Teams quite a bit myself, but whenever I see Jet on there, she's green late into the night, many times a week, day in and day out. And your office is so busy, and you just really have contributed so much to the work of the commission. So, and through so many things, pandemic, a few chairs here and there, so we're really going to miss you, and I know wherever you go, you will do great work, and I'm excited for you to come back. Thank you.
Commissioner C.
Jet, this is a hard one, seeing you go. I'm so grateful for all of your work and all your service here. You are one of the people who impressed me when I first started. It was so clear the sheer breadth of your expertise. It turns out OEMR does a lot. And I was just really struck with how much I had to learn and how grateful I was that we were on the same side when I started talking to you, with just how much you bring to your work every day. I'm so grateful for your counsel and advice from the very beginning. I think about all of those initial briefings that you were part of and helping me to get up to speed on so many things that the Commission does, and so many open matters, and just your patience and your ability to communicate on the importance and nuances of what you do. Thank you also for your great advice on hiring. You were willing to give me 2 of your star employees, and I'm forever grateful for that. But I have just really appreciated everything that I have learned from you, for your professionalism, for your nuanced and thoughtful way that you approach this work here, the way that you are such a mentor and a leader. You can see the high stamp of quality from the work that comes out of the office, and you can see it in the people who have worked with you and have learned from you over the years. You are a consummate professional and one of the significant people who have made this a wonderful place to work and to serve the public. So I'm so happy for you with what you have next, but so sad for us that you'll be leaving us here. It's been a true honor to serve here with you, and thank you so much for your work for the Commission on behalf of the American people. We wish you all the best.
Commissioner Chang.
I just want to echo and add my thanks. I met Jet when you were working for Chair LaFleur, and I remember you vividly because of your poise and your wisdom and the way you carry yourself in communicating very complicated topics. So I too benefited a lot from your leadership and your hard work, and this commission would not be the same without you here. So I'm very sad to see you leave, but I also want to congratulate you and hope for the very best for you as you move forward. Thank you very much.
Commissioner LaCerte.
You know, we haven't had a chance to overlap here long, but I will testify to your reputation here in this building. There's been many people that have sua sponte stopped me and asked me if I'm going to Jet's ceremony and how much of a loss you're going to be for this building here at 888. And I know the energy bar here is a small one, so I'm sure we'll cross paths again. And like Commissioner Rosner said, maybe we'll get you back one day. There's one more remark I would like to make. I know there was a retirement in the Senate. Pat McCormick, he's touched the lives of many people here in this building. And here, if you've been involved in an energy bar, if you've worked in energy politics, you've met Pat before. I won't say how long he's been in the Senate. I have respect for him. But I do wish him the best in his next endeavors. His last day was earlier this month, so I wanted to say fair winds following seas to Pat, and I look forward to seeing your next chapter.
Thank you, everyone, for attending today. And with that, we are adjourned.
Nice job, Kevin. Carry the team.
Memorize it all.
Great job. Great job, guys.